Hello, beloveds. Hello, hello. It is Thursday afternoon. It is 1 p.m. here in Mexico. It is 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it is 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, if I am not mistaken. And we are here today for our touchstone number 6. Be breathed. This is our week number 7, and this particular teaching is going to be covering essentially day 43 through day 49. And today we are just right here on day 46, I believe. So welcoming you back. I offer that we come together and turn our attention to our breath. Let the corners of our lips lift, let our nostrils flare, feel what we feel. I had this beautiful session this morning with a client, a business client that I love and respect deeply. And one of the things that the founder was saying is that there's a very big difference between being tired and depleted and being tired and full. And I am very tired and very full as I come off of these days with 7 sisters. And there's still 2 of the 7 sisters here, which is 3, I guess 3, because I keep forgetting I'm one of them, which is kind of sweet. But we're just right here. I've got my windows open. There's some doggies barking. Bienvenida a Mexico. So we're just feeling into what's real and raw. I'm going to take a drink of water. I encourage you to get yourselves comfortable. This is hot water in here, just plain old hot water. Just feeling it all as we receive this particular touchstone. One of my favorites, no question, no doubt. And I love this touchstone in particular, be breathed, because it is all about the ways in which that we recognize that we are held, that we don't have to do it all on our own. We don't have to hold it all together. We don't have to be the one. In fact, we aren't the one, and therefore we are never alone. We are always held in the hands and heart and the breath of the breather. You are the breath, you are the breather, you are the one being breathed. So I'm trusting we've got a lot of good questions coming our way. I'm sure they're over there on Facebook and on email. I haven't had a chance to take a peek, but I'll look here in a moment. And so for just right now and just this way, we close our eyes, we hold our weight, we turn our attention to the breath. Corners of the lips lift. We send the breath down and out the body on the exhale. We inhale to the crown. We send the breath down and out the body on the exhale. We inhale to the crown in our own time and in our own way. Just letting that breath be natural and fluid for you, and remembering that on every inhale, I am welcoming you. I'm welcoming you back. I'm welcoming you home, home to your heart, home to your own inner knowing. Welcoming you into the core of the core. Corners of the lips lifting and nostrils flaring. The inhale is essentially the masculine energy. The exhale is the feminine. Inhaling, rising up like the sun rises. Exhaling, the sun sets. We enter into the darkness, the soothing, cool, nourishing, nurturing aspects of our being. So from this place, we chant the student-teacher chant. Send the breath down and out the body on the exhale. Inhale to the crown. Together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Standing in the sacred gray, nothing right here, nothing wrong here. Nothing good, nothing bad, just the fullness of what is as it is, letting that be enough as it is. Inhaling each time on the inhale, we feel the sun rising, we feel the masculine energy, penetration, rising inward and upward. We exhale, send the breath down and out the body, resolving into the feminine, into the darkness, into the magnetic core of core, where your core emotions live, where your whole being is supported in and through. So who's here with us? Let's start with that. I look forward to seeing who's right here, live and in person with us on this sweet Thursday, November 4th, whatever time it is in your world. I'm just inviting you to show on up and introduce yourself. Tell us who's here with us, and let that be known. And if any questions arise that you've not had the chance to send my way in our Pilgrim Facebook group or on email, then I'm just here to say I'm happy to answer those questions as well. Okay. Looking at these questions, feeling into them. Very good. We've got a great question from Kelly, a great question from Pam. Let me see if I've got anything else over in email. Not seeing anything on email as far as questions are concerned. Okay, look who's here. Hi, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. A bit before recess duty, Julianne, Michelle, me, Michelle, happy you're here. Loving you here. Stephanie's here. Margot's here. Leslie's here. Pam Jones, and then lots of love. Okay, great. Great. If questions come up, they'll just come up. I'm just reminding you, still so accustomed to doing this with my eyes closed. So I'm just right here, and I have this very crazy way of doing an outline. Looks just like this. I follow the numbers, and I make my notes and my thoughts and my feelings, and I follow the numbers. So when my eyes are down, I'm just checking that out. So right here, just holding our breath as we are held by our breath, as we are breathed by our breath. So this is huge. Why is it to be breathed? It's to remember that we think, if you think you are the doer, think again, right? That's what it really comes, but being recognized, all the ways we're being held. Yeah. So I was struggling with this touchstone until you made this statement, being recognized, all the ways we are being held. Yeah. So here's the thing, like, it's not just about breathing, right? That's a mechanical thing. We can bring consciousness to our breathing practices, but it is mechanical. And I offer it that as we come together and as we are, I'm just going to scooch this back a smidge, just a little tiny bit, and turn it just like that. So there we go. So as we come together in this touchstone, which the biggest offering is that you're never alone and you're always held. Like, you're being breathed. You don't actually get to choose, as long as you're not taking in an overt suicidal act, right? Like putting a gun to your head or something of that nature. You don't get to choose if you're breathing. You're being breathed. As long as you are in a functional container, a functional skin bag, you're being breathed. So even if you hold your breath until you pass out, what's going to happen? You're going to start breathing again. So there is a force that is bigger than us. There is a force at play that is so much more and grander than our wildest imaginings. And so this is where I offer to you that we are taking ourselves too seriously so frequently, that we think that we have some sort of control when, as Dr. Vasant Lad said many years ago when I was studying in India with him during this exact time, because today's the first day of Diwali and I was there for Diwali, he said, we are just goats on a very long tether. Right? So through the yogic lens, it's as if to say that We are not, we have free will, but it is within the capacity of this universe. And if it is your last day to be here on the planet, and if Brahma, as we say, is going to take away your breath, your life, you're done, like game over. So we can flip that around and say, well, as long as I'm here, may I remember that the breath that is moving through me, the life force that is moving through me is not quote unquote mine. It's not Brit's, right? It's not up to me to breathe or not to breathe, not in the big picture, right? Again, unless I wipe out this physical container somehow. It is all about how universal love and how divinity and how Brahma wants to move in and through me. That's what it's all about. So if I'm meant to be here, I'm just going to keep on keeping on. And if I'm not meant to be here, I'm going to be moved on out. That's just the reality of it, right? So that's what we mean when we speak about being breathed. And may we recognize that sometimes we're going to feel like we can't breathe. Sometimes life is going to come our way and it's going to feel bigger and more intense than we can manage. And why is that? Because life is hard and there's a lot of pressure and pain can be really intense. Did you hear me say this morning that my favorite poem is a poem by a Sufi poet from the 14th century, Hafez. He's right up there, right next to Rumi. And all of his poetry is essentially expressions about divine love. And he says that grabbing that love for the divine is like grabbing the red swollen balls of the wild rogue elephant and not having the good fortune of being killed. So let there be no mistake about it. This living in alignment with love, living in alignment with integrity, living in alignment with what is most meaningful to us, these are not for the faint of heart. But just because it feels challenging doesn't mean that we can't befriend that and allow the tension to move in and through us, and then to simultaneously stay connected to our breath and survival. In the moments when life is challenging, when we're in pain, when we're suffering, when we're being pushed or pulled, when life is just hard, or when the pressures feel like they're more than we can bear, this is really the invocation for us to allow ourselves, surrender enough, consciously relax ourselves enough so that we can be breathed. And we are not the ones who erroneously think that we are the doer, or that we have control over whether or not this body is being breathed. So I'm curious what that means to you as I simply say the three statements. You are the breath, you are the breather, you are the one being breathed. You are the dance, you are the dancer, you are the one being danced. You are the painter, you are the painted, you are the painting. It is all of this, right? That is how God, Goddess is. That is how life force moves in and through us. And that ultimately is our greatest reminder. I love so much that the word breath comes from the Latin word spiritus, which means to breathe. So the Holy Spirit is the sacred breath. Those of you who have walked a Christian upbringing, as I have, one of the things that really, really touches me is how the word in Hebrew, Yahweh, doesn't have any vowels. And what we know in English is if there are no vowels, there's no way for sound to pass over our vocal cords, right? So if I say Yah, Y-A, it's Yah. If I say Yah and there's just a Y, how do I sound that out? There's no way to do it. It's the vowel that is imperative. So when we speak about Yahweh, the beauty of it is the way in which that we say Yahweh, Y-W-H-W, which is the original breath, is essentially this. We send the breath down and out the body. We inhale to the crown of the head, and we say, it is simply the breath moving over our vocal cords. Spirit, Holy Spirit, to be breathed. I'm just going to take a pause here and say, hi, sweet Margie, one of our 7 sisters who's now in LA, who left our sweet little house and retreat center this morning at 3:18 a.m. is when y'all pulled out of here. Moving all over the place. You'll be home in with the family. That's the good news. So I'm happy about that. So be breathed to be breathed. And with that, I just want to remind us of our first 5 touchstones, and then this is our 6th. The first was move my body. The second is purify this vessel. The third is join conscious community. The fourth is find sacred space. The fifth is align with nature. And the 6th is be breathed. The good news is next week we take a break. There's not going to be, is that better? Something going on? Is that better now? Can you hear me? Thank you, Margot, for letting me know. Let me know again if there's problems. I'm getting no audio, something weird. There's no microphone here, so hang on a second. Hold on, beloveds. Tell me if you can hear me now. Your hair? No, I don't have a microphone here. It's right on my computer, so hang on. See what we got. Can you hear me? Am I back? Have I returned? It's working for me. Anyone else? Much better. I think that might have been user error. I think I might have been touching my paper to the microphone on my computer. Okay, so good. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for that sweet little interruption for all the good and right reasons. I think it was the paper rubbing up against my computer. You're right. You're right. Here I am again. Okay, right back here. So I was just saying that we have these 6 touchstones and that next week we are going to be resting. It's not a rest. It's called taking pause, where we're going to be reflecting on these first 6 touchstones. And there'll be an exercise that supports that as well. So it'll be a lighter week next week in terms of content delivery. We'll still have a Q&A. I'll still be here. And it will be a shorter Q&A unless you have robust questions, because I won't be going through any content on the front end of it as I'm doing now. So we'll just show right on up and moving in through next week. But the beauty of it is these first 6 touchstones are really practical and in the body. And then what's going to happen is as we move into the next touchstones, the next 6 touchstones, they become increasingly subtle. So here's what we'll do. We'll just remember what those first 6 touchstones were and are, today being the 6th. The first one is move my body. The second one is purify this vessel. The third, join conscious community. The fourth, find sacred space. The fifth, align with nature. And today, the 6th, is be breathed. Remembering that each and every touchstone can hold the entire universe, that we don't need all the other touchstones, and that each one is a portal, an entryway in. It's like here in Guanajuato, there's tunnels everywhere, and all of those tunnels lead in and out of the city. So every single one of these touchstones is going to give you an access to your own divine nature. You can choose one of them. You can intermingle them, interface them, interweave them together if you so choose. Just know that if there's one that you're really drawn to and you feel called to hang with that and stick with that and not integrate the next ones, that's all well and good, and that you'll have an opportunity next year, of course, to go a little deeper if that moves you. Nothing is as it seems. Every touchstone contains and holds the entire universe and can stand alone. The beauty of it there, right there and there, right there and then. So you have a list in your members portal of all of the benefits of the pranayama practices. And so I want to make sure that you have access to that. You remember that you can go to your portal for the weekly lessons. I record audios each week, and that's just right there for you to get the most of it. So touching into that. So ultimately, everything that we do when we are consciously turning our attention to the breath is so that we may do this handful of things. Number 1, we may cultivate breath in our body, cultivate life force. Number 2, we direct breath, direct life force in our body. Number 3, we harvest it as it ripens and is necessary. Number 4, we bank it right? As if we have a bank account, a savings account full of our prana or life force so that we can call upon it and utilize it and turn to it whenever we are in need of it. Calling forth the breath and the life force that rides on the breath. So this is where we go again and again. We remember that on our inhale, that prana is moving up our body. This is the inspiration, and the exhale prana moves down the body. If you've learned it otherwise, I say don't trust a word I say. Try it on. You're going to know what's true. I'm not talking about oxygen. I'm talking about life force. It moves in and up the body on the inhale, down and out the body on the exhale. This is how we turn our attention to the breath in these ways. So with that, let's move on into those questions. And just be reminded that in our Western world, we have lost our connection to the breath. We forget that just simply by being here right now, which I'm going to take you into a little practice here and now, just by being with our breath again and again, we are gathering information. So I want you to take a drink of water, if that's there for you. Send the breath down and out the body on the exhale and inhale to the crown. Exhale, send the breath down and out the body and inhale to the crown. 2 more times. Exhale, send the breath down and out the body and inhale to the crown. And 1 more time, send the breath down and out the body and inhale to the crown. As you do so, as you feel the breath moving in and through your whole body, you are aware and conscious of whether or not your body feels tight as you breathe in. This is good information, giving you feedback about what you've been doing with your stress. Have you been harboring it and holding on to it, or have you been moving it out? If the body feels tight and tense on the inhale, as if it's pushing up against something that it hasn't been pushing up against, my hunch is your breath has been a little bit shallow at the least. And then on each exhale, can you empty, 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 letting it all go? Generally speaking, we have come to a limited and shallow breath, and it is very empowering, awakening, foundational, stabilizing, and inspirational to remember that our breath can heal us, that our breath is really all we've got. It is the life force of all life force. By turning to it, it makes a great difference. Breathing, inhaling, exhaling, breathing, inhaling, exhaling. There we go. Okay, here we are. So noticing if you're feeling a tension, just being aware of that, letting go, exhaling, releasing, and surrendering as it serves you and moves you, feeling the breath move in and up to the crown of the head, feeling the breath moving down and out. You always have like a drain valve at the bottom of your whole being where all your tensions can just drip right on out. If you don't need it right now, you don't need it at all. And if it needs to show up later as a tension to help support you and push you forward, prod you into action, then that can come your way. Okay, so here we are. I want to answer some questions, preguntas. All right, so Janet asked about, she asked in a different post about wanting more information, and I'd love to be more specific. Instead of saying which lesson it is, speak to the aspect of the lesson so that I can be clear. So Janet, when you watch this or listen to this, just go ahead and post that and tag it, and I will make sure to answer it, even if it's after this Q&A. All right, so Kelly, what does it mean energetically when someone is often audibly closing their throat and restricting breath flow? Can this be changed over time by a mindset or something? I believe this closing of the throat may be leading to snoring when my partner is being breathed as they sleep. This pilgrim would like more sleep, if at all possible. Any thoughts? So snoring is for sure a breath restriction. It's a chakra restriction. But what I would say first and foremost is go to the lowest hanging fruit, which is the physical body. So when the breath isn't moving in and through the physical body, we want to touch into it and tap into it through the physical body. I've had many bed partners over the long-term bed partners. I don't move around much, but in my moving around, I've had many of them who were snorers. I'm going to speak to what snoring is. And I have contributed to the stopping of that snoring in all of those 3 men I can think of, my 3 life partners over the course of my life. Number 1, weight is a huge factor. If someone is overweight, so too is the tongue, and it can close off the back of the throat, simply stated. Number 2, when stress levels are high, the restriction in the body will continue to hold on and grip. So someone needs to be essentially of a healthy weight, right? Obese individuals or heavier individuals have a higher incidence of snoring than those that are leaner. And that has to do with tongue size. You even know when someone is very obese, you can often hear it in their voice and in the way that they articulate words because of the breadth of their cheeks and their lips and their tongue. So just knowing that the tongue gets fat too and can get in the way and restrict us as can anything else. So weight, stress, being overtired, or having food in the belly. Drinking alcohol is another thing. So the only thing that I can say is it's an internal job first and foremost. Before looking at it through a chakra lens, et cetera, I would say go straight to the low-hanging fruit. It's about weight. It's about stress. It's about being overtired. It's about being induced into unnatural rhythms of breath and also blood-brain barrier function, which relate then to the way that the body is breathing and can show up as snoring or holding of one's breath or sleep apnea. And I just know this to be true in and through, no question, no doubt. These sleep apnea machines, if we really address the problem, there's no problem here for most individuals. Not going to say for all, but for most. So I would speak to that. Alcohol, eating too late, high stress, not enough exercise, overweight. Those are the big ones. So that's your question. That's your answer, sweet Kelly. Pam says, I'm working on showing up in my life. That's beautiful. First of all, I really champion just that. I shared my intention with my family to not show up for Thanksgiving this year. I'm having so much stress about showing up with old patterns. Pretending was not an option. I prefer to face comments about this is not how Thanksgiving is supposed to be. I'm letting it go. It's not easy. I'm focusing on breathing. That helps. There's a lot of tension. I'm building confidence and facing others. Can you please speak to this? I don't know what the question is. I want to be my genuine self who wants close relationships. I want to have something to offer. So here's what I would say. It's a process, right? We have to do what we do in order to hold ourselves sacred first. If there is tension, no matter what anyone else is doing or saying, that tension that you feel lives in your body, lives in your life. It's yours to heal. It's yours to tend to. And perhaps there's a tension between doing what other people want you to do and doing what you think is best for you. So if we've not been doing what is best for us for, say 40, 50 plus years, because that's not what we were told to do, then what we find is when we turn our attention on doing what is best for us, there is more tension and there is a deeper sense of feeling challenged and feeling tense around that choice. Because we will not get a standing ovation if our choices are asking or invoking others to look at themselves. But this is not about anyone else. This is about you saying, how do I express gratitude? How do I show up for myself and in loving connection. The connection starts in one's own heart, first and foremost. That is imperative. So that's a choice that it sounds like you're making. Through the yogic lens, it's bigger than this. If I were in your shoes, I would take it even a layer or two out away from yoga. I'd make sure I have a good therapist or coach, somebody who's helping me through this, who's helping me prioritize myself in a way that also honors others, a mutual honoring of others. Like, I love you and I'm just doing this. And also to say, it's no big deal, right? It's no big deal to yourself. Say it to yourself, say it to others. It's really no big deal. It's one meal, right? It's one day. No big deal, especially if you're not withholding love. So when we're able to just breathe through it and stay present to ourselves, others, and the world while making choices that fortify our nervous system, that open our hearts, and eventually and entirely allow for us to relax, then we are doing something that then opens our heart to others. And so it's a win-win. There's no way around it. But the first time in, it might not feel like that. And if they have attachments to you being a certain way or showing up a certain way, then that's their work, not yours. Doesn't mean it's not going to be hard. It's challenging to be in relationship with someone who, or with others who want you to act a certain way so that they're at peace. But that's the issue we face culturally across the board, insofar as we say that we love unconditionally. But loving unconditionally would be like, so Pam doesn't want to do Thanksgiving this year. So how can we love her? How can we be grateful for her? How can we be thankful for her? And you can flip that yourself and say, I don't want to do Thanksgiving this year. How can I practice gratitude for the people that I love? And just let that be as it is. So that's what I would say. It's, keeping it simple, not complicating it, not turning it into this big, huge thing. And remembering that the tension that you feel is within you. This circles back to that very challenging lesson that if there's a problem with what's going on, then the problem is something that I need to work out here in my own heart, in my own life. Because if there's a solution that I have access to, that solution lives within my very own heart. It's for me to access, to find, to awaken unto. So there it is. That's my question, or that's my answer to that. And I think there's a really good one coming our way here. So, okay. Angela, I have a question. Not sure which touchstone this fits into. It's sort of the expression of all that is. I'm struggling to reconcile the concept of the divine feminine with my Christian beliefs. I know God has both male and female traits. Not sure how to phrase this. Hope this makes sense. Okay. So here's the thing. When you look at the history, and I hope Heather Lewis speaks to this too, when you look at the history of Christianity through the lens of not any one given religion, nor any particular perspective that has an agenda for us to show up a certain way. So for example, I grew up Catholic, and Pope Gregory is the reason that we have the calendar that we have, the Gregorian calendar. And calendar, actually, when taken down to its root, is about collecting taxes and keeping record of debt and being able to collect debt. So it was a governmental and church-based political decision to change from a calendar that aligned with the natural rhythms of nature, which through the lens of yoga are feminine, right? And shift it to a masculine, more structured, practical way of measuring time. So I say that first to say that when we look at the history of Christianity, and Angela, maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want to start looking at some non-secular historical ways of seeing Christianity, if you're so moved. The other, so that you can sort of feel into the history of it. I remember first reading that there was no apple, like Adam and Eve and the apple, that there was no apple because that region of the world wouldn't have had apples. It was more likely a fig. And just knowing that and sensing into that, and then reading the book that I shared with you that's written by a historian, which you may or may not like based upon your comments here, but it essentially is reminding us that the feminine is a portal through which um, the divine masculine, or God that is known through the Christian world, is recognized. So through yoga, we close our eyes fullness, we open our eyes colorfulness. And then what I want to say is that the truth of it is there is no feminine and masculine. There is no goddess and God. When I say God, goddess, what I'm saying is like the all that is, that has no gender, that has no name, that has no form, right? That's what it is, right? It has no form. Has no form. And if it has no form, then it has no vagina nor penis. It's not gendered. And so in Christianity, we use the masculine essence as a descriptor, but really that historically has more to do with the patriarchy that has given divinity a higher position, because the world gives a higher position essentially to the masculine over the feminine. I'm not here to say one should be like, the reality is through the yogic lens, there's not one above the other, not masculine above feminine or feminine above masculine. There's not even equality between masculine and feminine. There just isness, right? That it's just like there, right? Nothing more, nothing less. It's just right there. So I say, like, play with the history of things. Read The Moon Beneath Her Feet if you're so interested. It's a novel, but I think it might make you go, interesting, what's that? It may not. The other thing you can do that is just equally gorgeous and beautiful, if there feels like there's some sort of dissent in the yogic teachings, I offer it's the lens through which you're seeing it. So just change lenses, as if to say, just say no. Like, for me, the masculine is where God is. And I say, okay, yes. Because the reality is, do I know? No. Right? There's no masculine nor feminine. There's no, God isn't a man nor a woman. It's sort of a silly thing that's a play on words where we say, my mom had this bumper sticker that I think us kids bought her, but it was a joke, but I thought it was pretty funny. And it said, what did it say? It said something like, God is watching, look busy. It's like that quality associated with being really, really active, penetrating, productive, that's associated with the masculine. But we have to remember that all Christianity comes in and through, even the Bible is translated over and over and over again from language after language after language. So it might be an interesting little play. But then the other thing is just like, put whatever on your altar. If you can just simply relate to the essence of the Virgin Mary and compassion and kindness as some aspect of divinity, then do so. Or if you say, no, for me, I feel closest to God when I worship the masculine, then I say, have at it. Like, what? Nothing wrong here. Right? There's no God goddess in the end. There's no Shiva and Parvati, right? It's just like you're saying, exactly as you're saying, Angela, that that God has feminine qualities too. Okay, right? Because we don't even have, really, there's no picture of God. We try to put a picture of God. We have Jesus because Jesus was man and spirit, but God doesn't have form. Right? Doesn't have form. So I hope that's helpful. I want to see this. It's so humbling to restructure my confined, constricting definition of God so much closer and intertwined with my spirit than I ever realized. Yeah, I think you might like, I remember when I read The Moon Beneath Her Feet, and I loved it because it was fiction. So Megan Waterward, the book that I mentioned, which is not yogic, right? This is not This is not Vedic. This is just a book that I love because it's written by a historian, and it helped me see some different things in terms of the feminine through the lens of the patriarchy, which is essentially masculine. Like, it's the filter that Christianity comes through. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like, pay attention, right? In my Catholic world, there were no altar girls when I was growing up. It was all altar boys, no girls. There were no priests that were women. Priest implied man. So it was, by all means, the Catholic Church was overtly masculine. We had to pass through the masculine. We had to pass through form. We had to pass through the priest in order to get to God, right? Yeah. Yeah, pay attention. You might push your buttons, Angela. And I say, if it pushes your buttons, you have every right to say, not for me. But what I loved about Moon Beneath Her Feet is it's a little bit less of a challenge because it's fiction. But it had an interesting way of looking at Jesus's life. So check it out. Interesting, very, very interesting. And then the other is written by a historian, which looks at the literal translation of Aramaic and what's happened with our translations of the Bible and how it has created what's called the Madonna whore split, which makes Mary Magdalene more and more and more of a whore and makes the Virgin Mary more and more and more pure and innocent. But that wasn't the way it was. There was much more of a balance between the two, and that every woman holds within her that whole thing. So when we see that through the yogic lens, what we see is sanctify your bitchiness, sanctify your trauma, sanctify your jealousy, make it all holy, see it as something that is offering you a gift, because where is God not? Where is God not? Okay, so there's that. Whew, that wasn't about the breath, the breather, and the one being breathed, but boy, it's a really good one. All right. Hello, dearests. I have a question. All right, so I'm struggling to reconcile with my concept. Okay, we got that one. Next one is, hello, dearests. I've been struggling with the rising feeling that feels like spaciousness and ease when applied to my workday. I sometimes feel like I stop caring. I'm no longer worried for now and go about my day. Could I be cute, confusing peace with going bananas? We can all confuse. We can all confuse peace with going bananas. So here's the question. When someone does something, can you feel it? Can you feel it move through your body? Can you be present and compassionate to their experience? And then can you still hold peace on the other side? So the emotions or the experience of what someone does or says moves through you like tiny little ripples on the water. If it moves through you like this, like, meh, then I'd say that's not going bananas. That's emotional checked outedness. That's like flatline on the heart rate monitor. We got no pulse. And there's a lot of that going on. I see that a lot at the moment in the US consulate. It's like there's no sense of deep compassion and connection. That's very different than someone holding their center, like a paramedic or a firefighter paramedic holds their center. As you come in, they know you're suffering. They're very aware of it. They're holding space for it, right? And they're helping you each step of the way. And then all of that moves in and through them, and they're left with that sense of stability and groundedness that makes them so powerful in their position. So that's what I would say about that. New comment. What do we got here? Heart pops. Goodbye, mascara. What just happened? Oh my gosh. I don't know what that means. Yep. Sanctify your bitchiness. Heart pops. I don't know what these things are, you guys. You're confusing me, but it's okay. Okay, I'm going to go back to my Facebook and see if there's anything else. If you want to enlighten me so that I'm not so in the dark, you're welcome to. If not, I do get the sanctify your bitchiness thing. He says it to me all the time. Sanctify your bitchiness. And we don't use nouns to describe people. You're not a bitch. You are a divine, whole, holy human being that happens to have colors of bitchiness moving in and through her, and grace and beauty and love and presence and rage and joy and all of these things. It all moves through us. Huh? Okay. Muy bien. Okay. So again, Janet, if you can be more clear, I'd love to answer your questions rather than sort of delving into an entire lesson. All right, what else we got here? Yay, Libby's with us. That's great. What else we got here? Anything else, beloveds? Margie, continued safe travels. Candace, I'm not sure where you are, but if you're still traveling, wishing you safe travels. Suzanne, I hope that you've made it. Marilyn O'Brien, I hope that you're making it. Looks like we made it. So I'm just loving you all, holding you all sacred and close to my heart. And next week is taking a pause between our first 6 touchstones and our second 6 touchstones, as one would. So I love you. Oh, shuttling home from Phoenix. There you go. Look at you go. All right. Well, I love you all to the moon and back. I'm super grateful for your presence. Super excited to continue to share this journey with you. Super honored to carry this journey, to continue to walk this journey with you. So we'll close with our Om Purnamida. Sending our breath down and out the body on the exhale. Inhale to the crown of the head. Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamavevashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Hari Om. Here we are, loving you all so deeply and truly. Beautiful afternoon to you. Bye, beloveds.